All right, awesome. So I'm back, and I think it's time to play. I, I've been really excited because I finally found um, some JSON data around the Pokemons. Uh, so I'm a big Pokemon Go player, and I've been playing a lot um, recently. So I'm really into it, and I wanted to play around with some data because there's a lot that goes into an individual Pokemon, and so I thought, what better way to play with it than to maybe build a Slack app. So um, Michael Lynn, who's on my team, was talking about doing a slash command earlier this week, and it kind of got me thinking. Well, that's an easy thing to do. With MongoDB Stitch, since it's essentially accepting a webhook and then responding to it, and we can do that very easily. So I thought let's take a look. So let me go to desktop here. But let's take a look at, I've got the documentation for slash commands up. You've probably seen a lot of them if you are a user of Slack. You probably use like the slash Giphy one to get an animated GIF of something. It does a search and it returns back an animated GIF, like a random one. You never know what you're going to get with that. Or if you've done slash shrug, that's one that's built in. Actually, let me so I have up our MongoDB Community Slack, and anybody's welcome to go join that. I believe it's community-slack.mongodb.com. Let's just figure this out real quick. Community-slack.mongodb.com. I'll make sure to put a link in the description. But yeah, that will take you to our, what is it called? It's our launch pass that will get you signed up and entered in. So if you want to talk to more people using Stitch, using Atlas, using anything with MongoDB, join that community. So I've created a little channel in here. Somebody has already found it. So I could play around, but if we type slash shrug and then a message, we can see that it basically just gives you your message and it appends a shrug. But there's lots of them out there. There's some to-do lists where you can actually do add and remove and check off things on the to-do list. There's lots of different things that you can do with slash commands. But today we're going to be building a very simple Pokedex Slack command. So we're going to use all that data that I found about Pokemon, and we're going to do that. So I have my cluster running here. So I still have the same M0 cluster that I've been using. It's now almost at a meg. But if we can go in here and look at the collections, I've added a new database, named it Pokemon. And there is a Pokedex collection. So we'll take a look at that real quick to see what we'll be playing with. So here, I'll need that. Inside here, there's 151 records, so I'm guessing that this is like all of the Pokemon from the Kanto region and maybe a few extra ones. I don't know if they've like gone into the different Eevee evolutions, and maybe that's why it's 151. But you can see we've got different ones in here. We've got Weedle, we've got Kakuna, Ivysaur, and we can kind of drill in. There's a nice image, so you can actually see what they look like. Just pulled up Ivysaur. Did I not hit enter? There we go. So that's Ivysaur. And then there's some different information in here for the type. So it's a grass and a poison. And then there's some miscellaneous information. So classification, it's a seed Pokemon. So this is all information that we have that we can kind of pull back. And their Pokemon number is represented as a string. That's just the way it was. And it's a 3 character string. So that's going to be important coming up. So slash commands. So we have our Slack that we're going to use. So let's take a look at building a command. So we know what those are. So what happens is they send a post with the following information to your application, and then you just have to respond. So it's a very simple receive a webhook and respond. There's lots of applications out there that do it just like that. So you can kind of see Slack sends an HTTP host to the requested URL you specify above. So we'll specify that here in a minute. And they send a payload of information. So there's a lot of information that we won't use today, but it's going to be very helpful if you decide to use it. If you want to do a little bit more than just a response, you can use it. So you know like what channel it's being sent from, the user that sent it. But what we're interested in today is the command. So what command gets put in, and the text, and so that's everything after. So in this example, they do /weather and then a zip code, and so the /weather is input as the command, and then the zip code is what is included in the text. So we're going to keep it very simple, and we're just going to do /Pokedex and the 3-character number, and maybe build on that going forward. But I think that's a good starting point. So we don't have to worry about parsing the text because we're only expecting that entry. So let's go ahead and look at our Slack app. So to save time, I've gone ahead and created a clean Slack app, so that way we don't have to wait the 3 to 5 minutes for it to build up. So I have StitchCraft Slack here. But we will wait for it to redirect to the application. Cool. And so this is a brand new app. I just made it earlier this morning. There's nothing on it. But we need to go, and we're going to start by creating a service. And we're going to add an HTTP service. And so this is what allows us to create that URL to run a function whenever a webhook comes in. And so I'm just going to name this service Slack, since it's going to be doing stuff with Slack. And in here we can add an incoming webhook. And I'm going to name the webhook the same thing as the Slack command, just for simplicity. So I'm going to call it Pokedex. And then I'm going to tell it to respond with the result. Now, whenever you do a response for the Slack, it's expecting like a 200 OK and then a body. And while we could do all that ourselves, we have this nice little option to just kind of respond with the result. I'll show you the other stuff here later. And we're just going to run this webhook as a system, so we don't have to worry about rules and things like that. There's different ways you can do it. I think script would be an interesting thing to do in the future. If you hold, if you have users in Stitch, and then you can associate them with their Slack ID, and then whenever the request comes in, you know who the user is that called it, and then you can kind of do the translation and use the rules that way. But for right now, we're just going to be very simple and stick with system. So anybody can send, anybody who sends will run as is. The post is going to be the same, and then we're going to turn off validation. It's not really needed for this. And then I'm going to go ahead and save that. And so we've got a lot of stuff. It's been a while since I've created a new webhook, I guess. There's a lot of things to kind of help you figure out what's coming, what you're getting out of the payload. But if we chose to not return the result, one thing that we are able to do is there's actually a second argument that you can put in here called response. So if you've ever written any routes using something like Express.js for Node, you've kind of got that request and response, and that's kind of essentially what you've got right here. But we're not going to use it, so I'm just going to take that back out. So this is good for right now. One thing that I want, so we can go ahead and create our Slack app, is this webhook URL. And so this is the URL that's generated. It's kind of hard to see. That's a nice little text box that's being not helpful. So I'm just going to copy that out, and we can go back over here to our Slack documentation and create a Slack app. So I'm going to do that in a new window. And we're going to create an app. And we're going to call this Pokedex. And I'm going to set it up to use the MongoDB Community Slack. We're going to create an app. Excellent. And I believe what we want here is incoming webhooks. So I'm going to go back over and just double check. Create a new one. Create new command. Well, that's not what that looks like. Slash commands. Let's go to that. Create new command. I probably just didn't read all the instructions. Oops. Okay. And so this is going to be slash Pokedex. And the request URL, we're going to paste in the URL that we got from there. And a short description. So this is going to be return a Pokemon for a given ID. And then we can say slash Pokedex, and we'll say 001 for Bulbasaur. Great. And then we'll go ahead and we'll click this. We're not going to use kind of any of that information being sent in, but it's helpful for if you want to interact with the API later. So we'll go ahead and save that. Great. Okay, so we've got this command, and now let's just do like a simple hello world. So we know that it's working. And I gotta find, here we go. Nope. There it is. Lost my Stitch console. And so we'll go back over to the function editor, and we've got a lot of stuff going on. All right, I'm gonna get rid of a lot of this. There we go, it's cleaner. And so let's set up let response equal that, and we're going to return the response. And right now we're kind of ignoring everything that's coming in the payload, but if we go back over here to respond with text, we can there we go. So we can just give it a text. Find the thing. And so text is going to be hello world. And I'm going to put a semicolon and another one there. Clean that up a little bit. And we'll hit save. So basically what's going to happen now is Slack is going to send us in the webhook, and we're just going to respond with this object that we created that only has a text property. Well, what I wouldn't give for prettier. So let's go over and see if it works. So I can do slash. Uh-oh. Do I have to restart it? This is actually my first attempt at this, so you get to see all of the stuff. Not a valid command. All right, let's go back to the That's what I get for just Yeah, new command URL, that, escape, yada, yada. Okay, so our Stitch application. There's all of that stuff. Save changes. Nope, no changes to save. Maybe it's just taking a minute. No, maybe if I refresh. Nope, I don't want notifications. Great. I wonder if I have to, let me check my mail and see if I have to like authorize it. Yeah, let's add an icon. What is it, too big? I went out on the internet and I found this icon because I liked it. Oh, it needs to be bigger. It's an icon. What size are we got here? Yeah, it's way too small. Well, fine, it's fine. Oh, install app? Add app to workspace. Oh. Your workspace can't add any more apps. There is a, yeah, there is a limit to what you can do. All right, let's do 10 apps. What apps do we have running in there? I guess if anything, I can just create a new Slack. Let's see. Administration, manage apps. All right. No, that one's important. Don't know what some of these are. Let's try that again. Let's return. See if I can disable one and then. There we go. All right, we're in business. Sweet. All right, so if we go back over here, we should be able to test it. If I do /Pokedex, hey, look at that. Pokedex, and we'll do 001, and it returns hello world. All right, now we're in business. Okay, so I guess what would the next thing to be? We would want to go in here and let's actually query the database. So to do that, we are going to need to get information from the payload. So let's just grab the body. And so we can grab that from the payload, and then we can parse the JSON, and we can kind of get an object with everything that's put back. And so let's take this one step further, and let's print out the command that we're putting in, just so we can kind of see what's coming. So body dot, and that is, we go back over here so we can kind of see what they sent us. Text, cool. So body.text should be 001. Body.text, and we'll hit save. And now we can go back over here and Pokedex and just say Bob. It did not work. Interesting. Client error. Let's take a look at what I just did. Okay, so we got the response. We're returning the response. I wonder if it doesn't like my template string. So let's just go back and do it the old-fashioned way. And save. Huh, okay. This is fun. We're getting a error 400. Let's see if we got any issues in the logs here. Something about the function execution. Cannot access member text of undefined. All right, so we'll go back in to our Slack service and our webhook. And is that not how it works anymore? All right. We are using the HTTP service. And incoming webhooks. Yep. Body. Okay. Payload.body. Maybe we don't need this piece anymore. Okay, so we probably have the same situation. Valid character U, beginning of the value. Okay, so I think that's right. Let's go ahead and take a look at what we're getting for the body, because maybe it's not what it looks like. So back to services, Slack, and what did I do? Text. And let's do a console.log. I'm going to stringify it. The body. Okay, save that, run it again. Okay, so it looks like it crashed, which it should. We're just going to get the log. Okay, function execution. Cannot access member text undefined. Okay, let's. Oops. That is in services since it's a webhook. Let's just stringify payload. And we'll go back and look at the log. I'm actually going to open this in a new window so I don't have to keep switching back and forth. Okay. Body is not defined. So we've got query. Oh. This is very interesting. So over here, it's doing a post, but the payload, it's like the payload's being sent via query strings. I guess that is right with all of this. That's very interesting. Okay, so basically what's happening is I'm looking on the body, which is where typically stuff that you post comes in, but it's all being put on the query. So let's go over here. Yeah, so there's query, and the text should be off of that. So let's do back over here. We don't actually need that. So I'm going to say const and text is equal to payload.query. So we'll pull the text out of the query, making sure I spell that right because I have spelling problems. Yep, that's right. And so now that should just be text. I bet you my template strings work, but we're just going to delete this anyway. And I'm going to, you know what, I'm going to get rid of that for right now. Let's save. And we'll run this again. Boom, hello Bob. All right, so it's working. Yeah, so it's coming over in the query instead of in the body. Fine, we can work around that. Also, notice that this says it's only visible to you. That means that the message is coming over as ephemeral. And down here in the response, it tells us that message visibility. So the response type parameter in the JSON payload controls the visibility, but by default it's set to ephemeral. So that means that only you can see it. But you can change it to in channel, and that would make the post be displayed to everybody. So let's go ahead and set that. So yeah, that's the one we need. Let's start to kind of make this look a little better. And response type is, what was that, in channel? Did I copy that? No, I didn't. I copied this. So in channel. And we'll save. And so basically what we did should now just show up for everybody. So you can say Pokedex Bob. And Buffalo Bob displayed for everybody. Neat. All right, moving right along. Okay, so now we should have enough to actually pull some of the information back from the database and return, at least the name of the person or of the Pokemon. So I think text is really all we're going to need from that. That's cool. All right. And so to grab from that, I'm just going to pull this kind of example code. So one of the pieces of code that I deleted was how to get a collection. So from the context, we have access to all the services, and we're going to use the MongoDB Atlas service. And so we're going to get from our database, which is Pokemon, and the collection is Pokedex. And so we have our text here. I'm going to take this out. And so we're going to leave response like that. And I'm going to make this an async function. So I can use async await. And we're going to do const the Pokemon is equal to await. And now we can do collection dot find one. And we're going to pass it what has been passed in as a text. So we're going to assume that that's correct for right now. So the ID has to match text. And so that should return a single Pokemon object. And we can set the response dot text is equal to Pokemon dot, I believe it's name. We can go check that out. Okay, so let's go back to, actually, let me open this in a new tab, and we'll go back and take a look at our collection. All right, go into collections, into our data explorer. And we'll go into the Pokemon, Pokedex, and we'll look at, and yeah, it is name. Cool. And so we go back over to our function here. You can ignore this missing semicolon because it's totally there. And we'll hit save. We can go back over to our Slack instance here, and we can say Pokedex, and we'll do 001, and we get Bulbasaur. Sweet. So it's doing the lookup from the database correctly. If I do Pokedex 100 Voltorb. So it works, and that's fun. But like, that's not very exciting. We have a picture, we have different things that we can display, the different types, things that we went through earlier. So let's look at how we can format the message to kind of show it more information. So back over here, so we can do attachments. And we don't need this, we don't need that. Oh, I guess we should, yeah, we should probably take care of a response. So, of an error response. So let's go back over here and say, if so if there's no Pokemon, we're going to return a friendlier message. So, and we're going to make that ephemeral. And we're just going to send it back a text with a friendly message. It says like, no Pokemon no Pokemon found for given ID. Cool. And so that should take care of the cases where we put in something and it's not found. Let's see. Okay, so did I hit save? Yes, I hit save. And so now if we say Pokedex Bob, it will come back with a message that's no Pokemon given for found for given ID. And I kind of want to change that just a little bit more. And change that. You know what? We can use literal strings because I've used them before. So I'm going to change that to a literal string. And I'm going to throw in the text. Cool. So now we can add just a little bit better. Pokedex. Bob. And so no Pokemon found for given ID Bob. Great. So we've taken care of that. Now let's make it look prettier. If we go over to the attachment structure, we can see here's all these different parameters that can be passed in as attachments. And we're going to use some of those, specifically the image URL. That would be helpful. And the title, that we can use that instead of the text. And I don't know, we'll see what else. I've got some written out that I like. Okay. Oh, you didn't? Alex said she wanted to be invited. No, Ali reached out to Michelle, and Michelle never got back to her. Okay, so we've got the Pokemon object, and we're going to add on, instead of doing this, we're going to add on a response side attach. Mints, right? Cannot remember anything. So attachments is going to be equal to an array of attachments, but we're probably just going to do one. It is nice to know that, like, maybe if we wanted to expand this to do, like, bring back all the grass types or the poison types, you can do an array of attachments and kind of loop through all of the Pokemon that come back. But maybe for another day. Really big on my formatting, sorry. Okay. So we are going to do, and I have no idea what this is going to look like, so let's do title. And that's going to be Pokemon.name. Oh my gosh. And let's start small, and we'll just do the name and the image. And so to get the image in there, it's image, actually spell it out, image URL, and that's going to be Pokemon dot, go over and look at our atlas, img. And I'm going to get rid of this because we're putting the name in the attachment. Cool. So let's see how far that gets us, or what this looks like. We'll go back over here, and we'll do Pokedex 001, and that brings us back Bulbasaur and his picture, which is pretty cool. I think we could make that smaller. There is a thumbnail where we'll turn that into a thumbnail. So if we go down here, thumb URL, valid URL to an image that will be displayed as a thumbnail on the right side of a message attachment. So it's just going to resize it, scale it down to 75. I think that might look a little better. Let's see. And so if I change image URL to thumb URL, okay, so let's change that and save. Basically, the rest of this is just making it pretty. So we'll see how good we can make this look. So I've saved it. And so now he's over here on the side. That's cool. So let's add some fields. So that way we can kind of fill out some more information. So let's add, go back over here. All right. So we're going to add some fields. And that's an array. And that I also put field. It's an array of objects. And field has a title. So the first field we're going to put in is for the type. And it has a value. And we get that from Pokemon dot, back over here, type, and that's going to be an array. So we'll just join those together. That type dot join, and we'll just do a simple comma separated list. And then there's an option where we can say if it's short, and that's if it should all fit on one line. But I think I'll leave that out for right now. And now let's put another field in. And the title is going to be classification. Classification. And then we give it a value. And that's going to be Pokemon dot, and I believe it's miss. Yeah, miss classification. Oops. All right, and so we've got a couple fields in there. So let's go ahead and hit save and see what that gives us. Pokedex 001. So we've got, it's a type grass poison, and the classification is a seed Pokemon. How do we get those? Can we get those set next to each other? Maybe let's set it up as short. So let's go back in here. And in these fields, there is a third parameter, and it is a Boolean for short. And so we're going to put true short true. And save and go back and run our command again. Cool. So that made it to where they're sitting next to each other. What other information do we have that we can put in? So we can put in the author name. There's author name and author icon. Let's get a little bit more information about those. Oh no, did I closed my attachments window. All right. So what does it say these are for? So author parameters. The author parameters will display a small section at the top of the message attachment that can contain the following fields: author name, small text, use the link, hyperlink, and an icon. Displays a small 16:16 image. Okay. So let's put that information in. Just to see if we can make this look any prettier. So title, we put this right up here. And so we have author name. And we're just going to call that Pokedex. Let me get my formatted one. And we have an author icon. Yes, and that takes a URL as a string. But the problem is I want to use, I'm going to go ahead and save this. I want to use this icon here that I found online, of a little Pokedex icon, or just like a really cool kind of squared, rounded Pokeball. But that's on my computer. So what we're going to do is we're going to utilize Stitch hosting to store that. So I'm just going to go ahead and enable hosting and just upload that file. So here's my file. It's up here. Can I get the copy link? Cool. So if I go and paste this link here, we got this image stored up in the cloud. So that's pretty cool. And so we can use that link, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a value. So I'm going to create a new value, and the name of the value is going to be Pokedex icon. URL? Sure. And that's just going to be the string of that. So if we want to change that, we can. What's going on here? Unexpected. The looks a little different, so let's go check our docs here real quick. Oh, they're over here. So what we're using are values. And so values are name constants that you can use in your functions and rules. So we can access it by doing context.values. Okay, cool. So let's go back over. Go back to values. Okay, so that should be fine. We'll go back into our function, into our Pokedex webhook, and Instead of this empty string, I'm going to do context. I'm going to spell it right. .value. What are values? Context.values. All right, I'm going to close that. Too many tabs. Values.pokedex icon URL. And we're going to save. And let's take a look at what we've done. Okay. So we've got the author in here. So it's coming from the Pokedex. The icon is not showing up. I bet I pulled that out wrong. Oh yeah, I have to do a get. Yep. So instead of here, we gotta wrap this with get and save that. I'm gonna do this again. It's a good thing like there's only 2 people in this channel. Oh, we got an error. Okay, so that means we can go over here and go over here. Uncaught reference promise rejection. Pokedex icon URL is not defined. Pokedex icon URL. Oh, because that should be a string. Little by little, we're getting there. Cool. So our little icon shows up. So we've got Bulbasaur. Let's do another one. 137. And we've got Polygon. Let's do another one. Pokedex. 101. Voltorb, or Electrode. I think actually we do Pokedex 102. Oh, execute. Okay. But we did it. So this is a very simple example of doing a Slack slash command. So we are grabbing information from the database and returning it in a nice, pretty formatted way. And it didn't take that many lines of code. We didn't have to spin up Node. We didn't have to use Express.js or maybe Mongoose or the MongoDB driver to interact with the database. We were able to pull it back out. If we wanted to change this up, we could do things like, put in, Pokedex, and then say like type grass, and we could have it pull back all of the grass types. So that's a possibility. But this is kind of a simple little example that's kind of fun to get you going. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah. If you end up making a slash command yourself using Stitch, I'd really like to see what you got done. If you want to use this one that we just created today and you're part of the Community Slack channel, then you can just try it out yourself, and hopefully it still works. But that's all I have for today. Thanks to those of you who joined me, and I'll see you next time.